The whole world is watching, you know. See, that's the thing about the technology, isn't it, really? Everything's on all the time. The cameras are on. They can see us everywhere in the world. Everywhere. Even, I understand, even is that the CE, Chief Executive, is in Cleveland, but I'd say he's watching. I couldn't swear to that now, but, you know, is he watching? Joanne says he's watching. Right, so, okay. We'll have to sharpen up. Oh, listen, as Eamon said at the very beginning, we used to smarten yourself up in Cork. That's what we used to say. In Wexford, it was sharpen yourself up. Sort of the hurling thing, I suppose. A bit of splicing on the hurley never helped. Well, Eamon used the word at the very beginning. He spoke about wisdom. And there certainly has been in the couple of hours that have elapsed since he gave his keynote address this morning. There's been quite a bit of wisdom spoken about in the room. And, it's great to sit here now with a family of musicians. I first met Leisha Kelly when we were making a series of films for the BBC called A River of Sound with Micheál O'Sullivan. And we were looking at the story of Irish music, really, where it came from, what well of tradition did it come out of. And a couple of words strike me, you know, that caused me to remember these words in some of the things that people had to say this morning. Tradition, translation, transmission. And Leisha carries tunes with her. She's a tune carrier, and she plays the national instrument, but she's also an innovator and somebody who has changed this quite complex piece of technology, as it was when it was first put together, into something that is fit for purpose for playing our music today. So rather than sort of me rattle on about this, I'm going to ask Cuilta and Leisha to begin with a tune. What are you going to play, Leisha, to begin with?
Well, we'll start with something exotic. A Galician tune that actually we learned from the great Liam O'Flynn in a nod of respect for the great man that we lost this year.
Yes.
And it's Muñera de Puyo. And then we'll go into a Mayo jig from all the way down the road there in Foxford from John McHugh called Adam and Eve.
Okay.
So
fire away. So we're going from Spain. Oh, so right, no Brexit or anything. That's great. Perfect. Right. We leapfrog the neighbouring island. Right. Was there a harp at home when you were growing up, Leisha?
No, but I have parents who have a very healthy attitude to partying. They had great house parties.
And where was that, in Westport?
Yeah, in Westport. And one time there's a great family there from Kilmina, just down from Westport. The Jordans, and they were originally from Kilmina, went over to Birkenhead, learned a lot of Irish music actually there, and came back as teenagers. And four of them came, and one girl, Rose, was playing the harp. I'd never seen it before, and as was at the time, you would never see the harp. You would never see the harp anywhere. And I was in awe. I was about 9. And I was too shy. Can you imagine me being too shy? But I was too shy to actually ask her, could I touch it, or, you know. And anytime I see little kids now, I'd always make sure, say, come on up. All you need is one finger, you know, to do that.
And you're off.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it wasn't long after that. Then he would have ordered this harp off Paddy Carfracky, who's.
Is that the same one?
Same harp since I was 12. Yeah. It just so happens it's the Rolls Royce, but I wouldn't have even known that when I was 12. Paddy's from East Mayo, so.
And he built you the harp.
He did, yeah.
What sort of wood is that?
That's mahogany and spruce, the same as you would have on your fiddles or your guitars to make the sound here. Yeah.
So, like Nora Patton earlier on, who sort of had to go to become an astronaut after seeing NASA, you had to have a harp.
Mm. Yeah, but I was waiting about 2 years, and then when I came home from school, I saw it, and I just couldn't believe it. I nearly died, and I thought, I bursting to get my hands on it. And then the first year, of course, was kind of a whirlwind, because I was learning great classical technique off an amazing girl called Anne-Marie Scanlon from Louisburg. Yeah. So she had great technique, but she had the beautiful soprano voice, which I, of course, don't have anything like that. I don't have a go at all. Yeah. And the repertoire that was coming with the harp at the time was just the tail end of the beautiful ladies sitting to the side of the harp with the pretty songs, which didn't suit me,
so
me or my character.
Mary O'Hara, you were not going to be.
Tomboy harp didn't talk, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it took me a while to find my way, and I knew I wanted to play tunes like my friends were playing fiddles and accordions and that kind of thing.
And just for people who don't understand, sort of, I suppose, like aspects of the tradition was sort of taking the harp into a session, like where they were say fiddles and pipes and flutes and all that sort of thing. Was that?
That just wasn't happening. Just wasn't. Yeah.
Like so, you wouldn't be taking the harp into a bar to play tunes.
Yeah, well, I did then, but pre that there wasn't, no. And I would have hated being singled out. You know, people used to go, wow, they see the harp, and it's the same. You still get that reaction because you don't get to see it, I suppose, as much as you do fiddles and mandolins or whatever. And they would say, play us a tune, and I just wanted to fit in, with my friends, and I would hate to have to kind of play a solo or that, but yeah.
And just go back a little bit, because there's a great tradition of, I suppose, let's call it big house music.
Yeah.
Associated with the harp, and associated with County Mayo, and associated with the McDermott Rose.
Absolutely,
and associated with Carolyn, and all of that. Were you listening to that sort of music when you were small?
Yeah. In fact, my father's from Belmullet, so we used to go up to Granny, and any of those long journeys from home from Westport up to Belmullet, wasn't long compared to Dingle, but anyway, Dad used to be a great fan of Derek Bell and Gráinne Yates, and they would have had albums of Carolyn music, like entire albums of Carolyn music, and he would play them in the car, and then we'd be kind of travel sick on the way up and then I would associate Carolyn music with being travel sick. So it took a long time to kind of recover from that. But then I did, and then I realised I've come a long way around, and I really appreciate it. And of course, Mrs. McDermott was from Castlebar.
That's right.
She was from Turlock House, where the museum is. So she was Carolyn's patron.
And his last tune, Carolyn's Farewell to Music, was reputedly written in that house.
No.
Or for her, was it?
Well, she married then, you see, up in Roscommon, and it was in that house where Carolyn was, up outside Keedew in Ballyfernan.
Yeah. I see.
Beautiful piece.
and Thomas Kennellan, maybe.
Yeah, Kennellan. Yeah, great. They're only over the road from here, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But it's just a great tradition of very sophisticated music.
Absolutely.
Here as well. And people used to refer to that, I suppose, as Ireland's classical music, or its indigenous classical music. And were you aware then of the Belfast Harp Festival?
Oh, absolutely.
And,
yeah, I grew up with that. And the
Dennis Hempson and all of that. Yeah.
I did, and I didn't appreciate it till later, I suppose. You know, I grew up with the weight of the tradition, kind of heavyish, and then kicked that all off in my 20s when I was playing in the pubs and the crack, and then realised kind of what we have is unique in the world.
What do we have?
Well, it's over 2,000 years old, this tradition. You know, it's pre-Christian in this country, and anytime you step out of this country, we're known as the country of music, and not just music of the harp. So I remember going to like Paraguay, the World Harp Festival, and they're all looking at me to tell them the story of why is it so important. Paraguay is one of the other 2 countries that has a harp as their national instrument.
And Wales.
And Wales.
Yeah.
But in Paraguay, they want to take over the harp world. So I was like, you know. But they're fantastic. Like
steady on, like.
Yeah, like they're amazing. They're maestros over there. Their music is amazing. I really love their music. And I mean, it's very different in all the countries in South America. But they have the harp because it would have gone over with the Jesuits in the 1500s. So they have an organic harp tradition there for more than 500 years, you know. So their music is wonderful. I love it.
And what is life like as a harper and a musician in Ireland right now?
It's improving. I suppose when I was a kid in school, wondering what I'm going to do after I finish, I wouldn't have thought that a harper definitely wasn't on the list of options. Like, so I was playing till I was working out what I was going to do, and then one day I got a call from Philip King to be. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose I play solo, play all over the world. Luckily, this beautiful instrument has brought me to every corner of the globe, and I got to play my own stuff, or sometimes I might get invited with an embassy to come as part of, you know, an attaché to go. You know, they're extremely, you know, privileged to have those sort of concerts where you represent the country, and then I play with a lot of different people. I've had a couple of bands over the years, and I play with different duos. I play with pipers, and then recently I've become the director of the International Harp Festival in Achill. So. Yeah, so that's a new road I've gone down, learning all the ropes from the other side. Yeah, that's me.
Are there Achill people here? Yes.
But the astronaut is half Achill.
Oh, sure, she'd have to be.
Isn't she fantastic? Yeah.
Right. So, will you play another tune? Yourself and Quilta, and then we'll have a chat. Yeah.
Well, actually, no, you were talking about the music of the big houses. We'll play one of those old tunes.
Oh, yeah. What one is it?
This is called The Fairy Queen. Now, we wouldn't have a time on this, like how old it is, but it's definitely one of the ancient tunes, so it's definitely more than 300 years. And the last 2 parts were added on by Carolyn, so that you're talking, you know, definitely pre-Carolyn. Beautiful piece. Yeah.
So, The Fairy Queen?
Yeah, give it a go.
Beautiful. Well, this is Quilta playing the mandolin. When are you getting a harp, Quilta?
Never.
What?
Never.
Never. Is it that?
Allergy.
Well, an allergy, is it? Do you like it? Were we ever tempted?
No, too many. It's too many strings.
Too many strings. Yeah. I said, is it the mandolin for you?
Yeah. Mandolin, the banjo.
And the banjo?
Yeah.
And the bagpipes and the clarinet, if you don't mind.
If you don't mind, just.
Well, bagpipes, because everybody plays bagpipes in Achill.
Big tradition in the island.
Picture this.
Big tradition, like.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. And I suppose music is on all sides of your family. It's just it's everywhere all the time, is it? Will you? Is it your career path to be a musician?
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, God love him, yeah.
I was just thinking back to just the Carolyn piece, and a system of patronage existed then with that old Irish order, and just mentioned the Belfast Harp Festival and that gathering up of those harpers in the late 1700s in Belfast, where Edward Bunting wrote down all those tunes, and those tunes which are held in store for us really. Many of them became the melodies that became Thomas Moore's songs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which Nuala and myself often refer to as the first singer-songwriter, and somebody who gave us this amazing store of not just great tunes, but an amazing intellectual property of like an immense and almost priceless value, really. And it's funny because we talk in this room quite a bit about sort of metrics and value and that sort of stuff. And so how do you put a value on this? You see, the thing is, because it's very difficult to put a value on something that's priceless, that is beyond sort of the sort of the normal metric of, well, we should do that because if we invest in that, we're going to get that had to be that. And we justify the investment with that. But it's this priceless thing, you know, that the thing that makes us what we are, that is, I suppose, our sound, which is this thing really is just so absolutely fantastic. And but to go back and use Eamon's word in the beginning, the wisdom that was involved and the talent that was involved in the creation of these like immensely sophisticated pieces of music and tunes is just a fantastic thing. And to have you carry them on is just wonderful. Is there another tune? Maybe we'll have a tune to finish off.
Yeah, sure.
And is there anything you'd like to say about the harp? Because I know you have. Say it now.
Okay, well,
right? Because there's people in the room who understand.
I know. Well, I want to start a campaign, right? I know you're all going to laugh, but
I'm not laughing.
Okay, right.
I'm not laughing.
Well, don't now, right? So, you know when you get your tax bill. And you know when you see the harp on the envelope,
yeah,
and everybody says that four-letter word when
Yeah.
they see it, and it's for me, you're reinforcing that you look at a harp and you go, I want the harp removed from the tax envelope. It's true. It's terrible. You know, like, obviously my whole life is dedicated to the harp and to promote it, but not just to promote it in all its historical forms, but to drive it on.
Yeah.
And that's why we started the Achill Harp Festival, to bring all these fantastic wave of new young players, to show them that, you know, we bring over these South Americans, we bring over, you know...
Venezuelans.
And Galicians, they're all coming this year, and, like, to show them that all the possibilities of the harp, not just our own thing. Anyway, so to finish off, we'll do a fairy tune from Achill, from the great master John Twino and McNamara, called Chongavin or Mahar, in praise of Achill language, and then finish up with a tune from a piper from Alan MacDonald. You know Alan?
I know Alan.
Great
Alan
piper.
Donloch.
Donloch, Ha Me Cuma it's called. It's called twice as worse, but anyway, yeah. So, Gurmila Malgat.
Right. Líosa, Quilta, take it away. Líosa, Cuilte. Thank you very, very much. And there's lunch. Thank you. Back at 2:15.